Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So I wanted to talk today about BRICS, how it's affecting the normal, everyday, average African like myself, and also what are the effects going to be, the parts you should focus on, and stuff like that. So let's just have a nice cup of tea. I've got chicory because I don't drink coffee, and then we can get right into it. So first of all, let me make a disclaimer. I'm not like an economist or anything like that. I actually am a person that I have been a bit obsessed with the money topic for a while now. I am a graduate of management accountant. I'm a licensed financial advisor. I am also a person that is very, very enthusiastic about small businesses and businesses in general. I have worked in various small businesses, and I am currently building up my own startup, and I work a 9 to 5 as a financial advisor, but my passions actually lies in investments. So let's get into it. So basically, when you talk about BRICS, so basically BRICS is just an economic bloc that is actually like being set up by those 5 countries, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, South Africa wasn't actually always in there. I think they only added them about 10 years ago. I stand to be corrected. And the thing is that what I found really interesting about it is that why this wasn't actually what was being used in the first place, because for me, the whole idea behind it actually made sense. But hey, like, what do I know? Just little me, right? So for you to really understand like the effect of BRICS, you have to go back into the history of money. And I'm actually from the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria. That's originally where I was born before migrating here. And back in our histories, as somebody who was born in the 90s, I knew that we used to use cowries as money, and there was a time that we used cowries. I definitely do remember, because there was always those Yoruba movies with talking about cowries, and there was always cowries everywhere. But that wasn't just particular to the Yoruba civilization. There were other forms of money that were used in all over all sort of places. I mean, if you watch movies like Game of Thrones, you can see how what was his name? Tyrone Lannister, was it Tyrion? And how everything that they used to talk about was just gold. Whenever they would go and they would loot another kingdom or whatever, it was always gold, 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 right? So there's been different forms of money since the beginning of time, right? And so because we are currently right now in the fourth industrial revolution, which means that there's a lot of artificial intelligence and all of that going on, right? But before we go to this age, so we're in the industrial age, and before that we're in an age before that, right? So the point I'm trying to get across is that there was a time whereby you could only trade with people that were in your villages. So you go to the market square and you sell whatever wares you've got with the people surrounding you, right? So right now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which means a lot of AI, a lot of augmented reality. I mean, we're just ascending into this age now, but there's already things like ChatGPT, there's metaverse and whatnot, speaking of which I actually need to get on those platforms. But hey, we'll talk about that in another video. So basically the point I'm trying to get across is that there was a time whereby as people, we could only trade with people that were actually in our villages. Like, let's say we'll go to I'm in Johannesburg right now, so maybe I only trade with people in Johannesburg, I trade with people in Gauteng. As a matter of fact, alien from Nigeria, so what we add, and we still have some form of it, is there will always be different market days for different kind of things, right? So there will be a market day for I don't know, maybe fabrics. So people from like other places could bring all their fabrics into this market. Then we know that every Thursday, this is what they actually do. There will be markets like Bogon Market, whereby we know that by 8 p.m., you know, the market only starts like actually getting busy at 7 p.m., you know, and then people would know that, okay, I want to go and buy stuff there. And there were certain things and certain wares that people could actually sell because it was quite specialized, you know. But the thing is, as time went by, people began to understand that, you know, I don't have to just trade with people in Oshogo. I can trade with people that are actually in Lagos. I can trade with people that are actually in Calabar. I can trade with people that are, you know, outside of my own vicinity. And as time went by, we realized that, you know what, I can actually trade with people in Ghana. I can trade with people in Cote d'Ivoire. I can trade with people in South Africa. But there was a problem though. The problem was that, let's say we were using gold or we're using cowries, and I needed to know that if I give my goods to Mrs. Simbi, that, you know, she'll give me a denomination that, which means money or something of some sort of value that I can take and use to buy something else. So we needed to agree on a form of money to actually use, right? Especially if now you're not going to be trading within your villages, that you have to like trade outside of your villages. And actually now we trade inter-country, right? Because I'm sure the stuff I'm wearing probably was made in China. Maybe my hair was imported from somewhere. This earring was probably imported from China. Just saying that within the inter-country, now we had to agree on a thing that we could actually use to trade. And so what they did back then, where I wasn't born, I don't know if you were born, I'm a 90s baby, was they decided, okay, we are going to peg our currency to one currency so that we can actually ensure economic stability, so that when I trade with you and you trade with me, it's fair, because now we can convert it to this amount that we all agreed to. And that amount was actually the US dollar. Okay, so all the countries came together and then they pegged their currency to the US dollar, making it and giving Americans a significant amount of advantage, because now their money was the king of all monies. Okay, and the whole idea behind money itself is that back in the days, remember I mentioned cowries in the beginning of the video, is that the money itself is not actually anything of value. So in economics, they will call this fiat money, right? And what was happening was that in the earliest form of banking, people would go with their own gold, which was, you know, everybody agreed that gold was money and yada yada. So they didn't want to keep it in their own house because it wasn't safe, just like the same way we don't want to keep money now. It's not really safe to like keep cash, especially if you live in South Africa. So they would go to the goldsmiths, and then the goldsmiths will actually issue a certificate, which was to say that we actually we have this amount of money that we're owing for Mrs. Simbi. So you can accept this certificate from Mrs. Simbi, knowing that she actually has money with us, and you can bring that certificate to us. We will exchange it for gold. But now that person also didn't want to collect the gold. She wanted to leave it by the goldsmith, but now she would just go in and actually show them, so that when they see that, they can increase their ledger or deduct a ledger or whatever. So then the whole banking thing actually started. You can do like more research on it on YouTube. Yeah, there's like several researchers talking about it, but that's just like the whole idea behind it. So how does that actually concern us with BRICS, and what does that have to do with you as an average African? I'm getting there, just give me a second. So basically, these countries that come together, they peg their money to the US dollar, which is the standard for money all over the world. And that is why, even if you like, you go to Zimbabwe or you go to China or you go to wherever, you are still going to convert whichever local currency, my friend, that you actually have, whether it's the Kenya shillings or whatever shillings you've got. When you get to the airport or wherever, they are not going to sell to you in that Kenyan shilling. You have to go, you change that money, and you go to the bureau de change. They will change that money, and for them to change that money, they will convert it to the US dollar first, and then they will give you the local money. The effect that I'm saying of things like this, as someone who is actually living in South Africa, is that, you know, there will always be these US companies I want to buy things from, right? And whilst I understand on their side that the things is not actually so expensive, because for them things are very expensive there compared to the standard of living that we get here and for the amount that we actually get it for, right? I'm not gonna be able to use my money to actually buy so much there because it's not really worth much there. And the reason is because their inflation is actually through the roof. I mean, we've got inflation here because of the fact that when they peg the money, whatever it is that the US does, unfortunately, it affects every one of us. So if the US is responsible with their money, we all benefit from it. If they are not, well, guess what? We all benefit from that. Well, not benefit, what's the word for disbenefit? I don't think there's a word like that, but yeah. So basically the effect of BRICS is that once the BRICS thing actually goes through, these are these 5 countries, and there are more of the countries that are actually applying to say, no, we also want to join. We don't want the US dollar to actually be reserve currency. And this is a very huge thing, because by them actually saying that, there's a lot of things that could go wrong in America, because the value of a currency is not backed with anything. It's basically what it says. It's a current. As long as it keeps on moving and everybody believes in it, then it's fine. The moment people do not trust that money, now you've got a huge problem, because now they don't want to take that money. The money keeps on going back. But now what happens to those people who have actually gotten their values and their things in that denomination? So when people don't want that money anymore, you unfortunately looking at a situation like Zimbabwe, where Zimbabweans lost trust in the Zimbabwean dollars. And why did that happen? Because they kept on printing money, right? And because they kept on printing money, the inflation was uncontrollable. So it got to a point where you had to buy one loaf of bread for 3 trillion rand, $3 trillion, whatever. But that the effect was because they didn't have a responsible government in place that would know that, you know, we can't just print money every time we're short of money. We need to look at a way to actually increase our GDP. GDP is the amount of goods that a country actually produces in a year. It's how they actually measure the productivity, right? So ideally what is supposed to happen is that when we trade, let's say for example I'm Ghana and this is the United States, right? And so I take my cocoa and then I sell it to Ghana, and then let's say I sell it to them for $100, right? Isn't it Ghana, United States is gonna turn around and actually pay me the $100 for my cocoa, right? If I want to increase the amount of my GDP, which means that the more I increase my GDP, by the way, the more that there is more people's standard of living increases, people get better wages and stuff like that. Now the government can tax that, and then in return for that, people are actually getting like higher quality of living, because the government can pay for all of these things, right? Or it's just the people that you actually employ, because just because it's just you doesn't mean you're the only one who's trading your country, right? There's like millions of people trading, and so everybody's life gets to actually increase. And if we want to increase our lives better, then let's increase our GDP. So what the states was not doing was that instead of them to say, how do we increase our GDP? They were like, oh no, we ran out of money, or we don't have enough money. Oh, let's just print more money. And every time they do that, my $100 that they paid for the supposed cocoa that they bought from me means that that money is worth a little bit less. You might say, how does that actually affect me? That affects me because now I can't take that denomination, which is $100, and buy stuff in the US that maybe, you know, there's things that can actually assist me with my businesses, right? I can't, because I can't afford it, because now the prices keeps on going up because they keep on printing this money. So the money becomes toxic. If I add, for example, now a money that was not due to manipulation that I could just use, I remember my economics teacher saying to me that our biggest problem in Africa is that we produce what we do not consume and we consume what we do not produce. He was right, but also to an extent, I also disagree with him, because it's not that we can't actually consume what we do produce. Is that if your hand is actually forced, okay, so say for example, let's use cocoa for example. So cocoa is like 90% of all the cocoa that's actually consumed in the world is actually from Africa, right? And let's say someone buys that cocoa from here or from Ghana, with US dollar, because now they have to actually convert that money to US dollar, right? We sell this cocoa, it goes to Switzerland or wherever lint is made, and then they actually process this cocoa. Remember, the production, the other factors of production going into it are actually in euro, it's in US dollar. That money is higher than our money by defect of the fact that we are pegged to this currency, which does not favor us, because every time if they didn't print the money and the money just stayed the way it was and we actually put it to gold standard, then everything will be fine. They can even take that thing there and then come back here and sell it, because now we would also go higher on our things that we trade. South Africa, for example, exports a lot of gold, right? So everything will be on par. But if one person is actually printing money and then the others cannot keep up because they are not reserved, and the thing is, so basically guys, if you actually want to play the cash flow game, I do have a club here in Johannesburg where we actually play physically. So you can click the link in the description box, and then someone will reach out to you, and then you can come play with me and actually learn with me on how I learn this cash flow things and the investment things. So yeah, so basically the whole thing would be fine if everybody stick to the same rule, which was that do not print money. For you to, any money that you print has to be backed by gold. That's where BRICS come in, because that is what they are doing and saying, yes, we will trade with each other with this currency. However, we will not manipulate the currency. We will not go and print a currency whilst we do not have the gold to actually back it up, because money in itself does not actually have any value. There's no intrinsic value to that paper. It's just paper. And because it's just paper, we have to be very responsible with regards to who is in power and who is in government, because if they're not responsible, they'll just go ahead and just say, oh, we have a money shortage, let's just print more money. That's not how it works, because that is I don't want to say what is actually in my mind, because I don't know, maybe YouTube will not decide to shadow ban me or whatever. I don't know what they do. But every time you want more money, you need to increase your production. You can't just go and just say, oh yeah, that's like you being hungry and then saying, oh, if I open my mouth up into the air, I'll get full. You're still not gonna get full. You just wasting your time. That's the way that you going about printing money is. But if you wanted to get full, you will go into the kitchen and you make yourself a sandwich. Now that is actually productive, you see, and then you eat that. That's real value, right? But just saying, yeah, you can give yourself the impression like you're swallowing something, but you're not actually swallowing anything because you're swallowing air. That's kind of like a nice way to actually put it. So basically, because of the banking system that the US actually uses, which is what is now used all over the world, because obviously the currencies are pegged together, is a fractional reserve currency. Because this is what is being used, that's why it allows this whole thing to actually continue, whereby we just print more money. By the way, it's not just the US actually printing money, it's every country is actually printing money, but it's because they've been backed into that corner where they sort of have to. So the result of this is that inflation becomes a thing that you cannot actually avoid, because you cannot print more money than what you're actually producing. It's impossible. That means that there's more money chasing fewer goods. When that happens, the prices are going to rise because the supply is higher than the demand, right? No, it's the other way around. The demand is higher than the supply of goods. So yeah, that's basically it. And if you wanted to actually like prepare for this era, which I believe would be an awesome era for us Africans, you know, I think it's been a long time coming, and I really wish that more Africans were taking this seriously, because there are so many things that we can learn from when we look at the States and how it's been a very nice economy for them for all this while. I mean, there are a lot of like awesome companies like in the States. I mean, look at Postnet. I believe Postnet actually hailed from the States. When you look at all these businesses and all this stuff that they've been able to do, like I really do commend Americans on that. Like they've been able to build like wonderful infrastructures. But the thing we can take from that as Africans is that stop waiting till you actually get a job and do things. Now it's even more easier than ever. I'm not saying entrepreneurship is easy, but I'm just saying it's much easier now, because we have all these things that we never used to have access to, like 20 years ago, 100 years ago. I mean, take for example YouTube. You can go on YouTube and learn almost anything. Want to learn how to make candy? Go on YouTube, you learn it, right? Yeah, so I believe a lot of Africans can actually put yourself in positions where you can actually improve your skills, because we are not going to be doing these things anymore of just everybody slaving away just so that people can live like an accustomed certain lifestyle in the States. Now the playing field will be more leveled. Having said that, look around you. There's a lot of Chinese here, a lot of I think Russia has actually mentioned how important Africa is to them, and the thing is, we all cannot grow alone. And that's like the other thing is, like, I think maybe sometimes when I've actually had this conversation with other people, like, oh yeah, like Americans are gonna see this, like, I don't actually believe that. I believe that this world and the resources in it is enough for each and every single person to actually thrive, not just survive, like just put your own chip in, like don't just wait until someone actually hands you stuff. Like, do stuff, collaborate with people, see how you can actually add value. So in conclusion, the things that I'll be looking at doing as an entrepreneur, as a 9-to-5er, and as an investor is that I'm actually sharpening my skills. Because why? When all of this actually goes through, I want to place myself in a position whereby I know exactly what the heck I'm doing. I want to be able to sharpen my skills in the areas of investment, so that I'm actually making investments that I know that they will cash flow, because, that's another thing we'll talk about in another video. Based on all of these things about the currency and whatnot, obviously, then you don't want to keep your money in a denomination that that money might not really be money, and it might end up in a Zimbabwean situation, which nobody wants that. But think about it in terms of the people who have the farms in Zimbabwe, okay, the tobacco farms and whatnot, they're still selling tobacco. I mean, I don't mean the guys that were chased and whatnot, but I'm saying if you've got a tobacco farm, there's always a demand for tobacco, so you're still selling tobacco, regardless of what denomination it is, regardless of if they're using money to buy it, or they're using Bitcoin to buy it, or they're using whatever to buy it. None of your business. You've got tobacco, and if you want my tobacco, I can dictate what you're going to use to buy my tobacco, because I can decide I do not want this currency, especially if that currency is not being taken by other people. So that is why I'm sharpening my skills in investing, because I want to be able to strategically place myself in a situation and in a position that I can actually recognize investments that I want to make, so I can convert my money and turn it into investments that can actually cash flow for me, because whichever currency or whichever denomination, I can still get that money. So I've actually been doing that for the last 5 years. I've been owning that skill, working in various small businesses, because I wanted to see how do people do it. I'm always learning, and yeah, it is awesome. So the second thing that I'm doing also is so I said sharpen my skills already, is networking, because the people that the caliber of people that the quality of people that is going to impact exactly how you actually think, what you dream about, what you actually talk about. Because you ever heard that saying about birds of the same feather actually flock together? It is so true. And for me, I'm constantly always trying to put myself in rooms where people are earning more than me, people are smarter than me, so I can see what are they doing, how are they doing, why are they thinking, why am I not thinking that way, or what can I take from them, and what can I remove from that, and whatnot like that. Yeah. And then the very third thing is to increase your financial literacy. I am very, very big, on this one, because for me, I picked up my first book on financial literacy when I was 23, and it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, yes, I am a huge fan of Robert Kiyosaki, and you should probably read him. Not should, you must read him, but then I can't tell you what to do, because the USA we shouldn't. We have to respect everybody. I'm just kidding. Today I'm so silly. So increase your financial literacy, because once you increase your financial literacy, you're able to actually see money everywhere. You're able to actually understand that, okay, it's in regards to what I actually produce. It's not just this mythical thing that is just floating everywhere. I feel like sometimes the more that we actually advance in technology, the more we regress in our brain. I don't know if it's just me feeling this way, but our foremothers and forefathers actually knew this stuff, I promise you they knew this stuff, because there's no way they could have done all of the stuff that they did without actually knowing this stuff. I remember, and even till this day, there's, no matter how poor a person says to you they are back home in Nigeria, they'll probably have a piece of land that their grandfather left them, or whatever, for sustenance farming and stuff like that. And it was only when I came to South Africa that I actually noticed, for the first time in my life, that people can actually be so poor, they actually don't even have a piece of land to actually say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna plant myself some potatoes. We became so, addicted and just addicted to this money thing. If I can just get the money, then I can go get the potatoes. Why don't you just plant your own damn potatoes? But hey, that's another topic for another day. So this video has been long. Please like, share, subscribe, share this with someone who might find it interesting, and thank you for joining me. I'll make another video, not about this, but about the effects this is actually having on me as an entrepreneur trading in Africa. Until next time, see you. Bye.